Hello children, I hope you're having a great day, staying safe at home. Okay, so today I'm here to continue with biology. Okay, and if you remember in class we were discussing the major groups of animals. And if you remember, the animal kingdom is divided into 9 major phyla. And the first 8 phyla belongs to invertebrates. So you know invertebrates means organisms which do not have a backbone. And the last phylum chordata means organisms which have a backbone. Okay, phylum chordata, or they are also known as vertebrates. And in class we had already finished discussing the characteristics, 2 or 3 characteristics and 2 examples of phylum Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda and Annelida. So now let us continue with the next phylum, that is Phylum Arthropoda. Okay, now when we are talking about Phylum Arthropoda, we are talking about jointed legged animals, okay, or simply insects. So that is very simple for you. If you are to give examples, if you are to write the examples of 2 arthropods, you simply name any 2 insects name that you know. Okay, but another thing you must keep in mind is phylum Arthropoda is the largest phylum in the animal kingdom. So in name the following, if you get name the largest phylum of the animal kingdom, what will your answer be? Your answer will be phylum Arthropoda. Okay, now next, moving on to the characteristics of phylum Arthropoda. Remember, number 1, it's very easy. These animals, they have jointed limbs. So if you look at the legs of any insects, you will see that they are joined at certain places. And next is they have an exoskeleton which is made up of chitin. Now chitin is a hard material. You know that the body of insects are soft, so they need to be protected. Okay, so for this protection there is an exoskeleton. Okay, so when we are talking about an exoskeleton, we are talking about an external skeleton that supports and protects the soft body of insects. Remember, the body of insects are soft. Okay, so another word that you're familiar with is shell. Okay, so some shells or the exoskeleton are hard and some are soft, but it is rigid. Rigid means it is hard. Now in early life, when we are talking about the early life of insects, we are talking about, as soon as they hatch out from the eggs and then they are a few weeks old, what happens? They cast off or throw off their exoskeleton, just like you cast off your milk teeth and then the milk teeth is replaced by permanent teeth. Similarly, these insects, they cast off their exoskeleton and regrow it. Okay, and this process is known as molting. So if you are to define molting, what will you write? You will write down the casting off and the regrowing of the exoskeleton is called molting. Okay, now next, moving on to body symmetry. When we are talking about body symmetry, we are talking about dividing the body of an animal or any organism into 2 equal halves. That means along which plane can we cut any organism so as to get 2 equal parts. Okay, so some diagrams I have drawn here. Okay, these are rough diagrams. The first one, this one, is of amoeba. Now if you want to cut this amoeba into 2 equal halves, can you do it? Ditto parts? No, not possible. Along this plane? No. Along this plane, we will not get 2 equal parts. Whichever plane. Now, this side and this side is different. This side and this side is different. This side and this side is different. So we are not getting 2 equal halves. We are not getting 2 ditto parts. Okay. So this is known as asymmetry. Okay, or asymmetrical. So next we move on to the starfish. How can we cut if we want to divide it into 2 equal halves? So if we cut it along this plane, Yes, we are getting two equal halves, aren't we? So now next, supposing I cut it along this. Oh yes, again we are getting two equal halves, isn't it? So similarly, you can cut it along this plane, isn't it? You can cut it along this plane. That is, where are we cutting it through? We are cutting it through the radius. Okay, so this is known as radial symmetry. Okay, that means a starfish is radially symmetrical and amoeba is asymmetrical. Now, when we are talking about insects or human beings, we can't cut this butterfly into two along this plane. Why? Because this is the head portion and this is the tail portion. So we will not get we will not get equal halves if we cut it along this plane, isn't it? So we need to cut it along only one plane right at the center like this. Then we'll get two equal halves, isn't it? So in the same way, if you look at human beings, at yourself, to get two equal parts, we need to cut only along one plane, okay, right through the center. Then only we can divide these organisms into two equal parts. That means the butterfly or human beings or any animals. If you see a cat, a dog, or a bird, okay, we can cut it only along a plane, a single plane right at the center, to divide it into two equal halves, okay, ditto parts. So this is known as bilateral symmetry. Bilateral means right at the center. That means two halves. Bi means two. Bilateral symmetry. Okay, that means human beings are bilaterally symmetrical. A butterfly is bilaterally symmetrical. Okay, so I hope the body symmetry is clear to you. Now next we move on to phylum mollusca. Okay, phylum mollusca, you all know what snail is, you all know what an octopus is. But anyway, you have the liberty to turn your textbooks and choose any two easy examples that you want to learn. Now, moving on to the characteristics. Now, they have a soft, unsegmented body. Now, when we talk about unsegmented body, we are talking about a solid body that is not divided into tiny segments. So, the body is soft, it is unsegmented, and it is protected by a hard calcareous shell. Calcareous means it is made up of calcium carbonate. They have a muscular foot to help in locomotion. Okay, muscular foot means it is made up of muscles, and these muscles contract and relax so that the organism can move in the forward direction. Now, when we talk about hard calcareous shell, you know, you have seen the shells of snails, isn't it? So it is made up of calcium carbonate. Now next, moving on to Phylum Echinodermata. Okay, I have taken out examples starfish and sea cucumber. Again, remember, you have the liberty to choose any two that will be easier for you to learn and keep in mind. Okay, now when we are talking about the characteristics of Phylum Echinodermata, okay, the characteristics, first characteristic is they have unsegmented bodies, okay, with an exoskeleton and a spiny surface. Okay, so the body is unsegmented. Again, remember, it does not have any segments, and they have an exoskeleton and it is spiny. Okay, spine like projections going to the outer surface. Of course, the spiny surface is, it protects the body. Next is they move by means of tube feet. When we are talking about tube feet, you will see, okay, the feet underneath these organisms, this type of structure is there, and then they move with the help of tube feet. And then they are radially symmetrical. If you remember starfish, okay, you can cut it along the radius, so they are radially symmetrical. So we come to the end of the invertebrates. We are done with the invertebrates. So next upload we will be learning about phylum Chordata and the various classes that it contains. So please go through this video and see if you have any problem. You can WhatsApp me. Have a nice day. Stay safe.